Hey, welcome to Kotlin Conversations, where we're having conversations with just some of the amazing speakers here at KotlinConf 2023. I'm Huynh Huet Dao, and I'm speaking with...
My name is Ryan Harter. I'm an Android developer at Dropbox.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, we are both Android developers, but yeah, we both are using Kotlin. Ryan, why don't we start off with your Kotlin journey? How did you get started with Kotlin?
So before I was at Dropbox, I was doing a lot of, I was freelancing for a long time, and I worked in a small company where I had a lot of latitude to play around with technologies and that kind of stuff. So I adopted Kotlin for Android pretty early on. It was 2015, 2016 or so, and basically, once I found out that other people in the industry were using it, I decided that I'd play around and give it a try.
That's really cool because I feel like, I think you're way more original than I am, because I think I started around 16, but it's kind of cool how you and a lot of other thought leaders in the community kind of converged on Kotlin all at the same time. Do you think it just was because it was kind of was it 1.0 back then, or...?
I think when I started out, it was the 0.8 or 9 days.
Yeah. So
was it really early?
Yeah. Was it because it was approaching 1, where you think everybody kind of was just like, okay, this is kind of getting, we're getting towards stable. It seems like a good idea to kind of really see where Kotlin can take us, or do you just think it was like just by chance that people were just really getting into it at the same time?
I think, to be honest, I think it really has a lot to do with like the Android community, and we've got this history of open source and sharing and like working and growing together and everything. And I think that that was a big driver. And a lot of people, especially at larger teams and that kind of stuff, felt more comfortable after, there's the famous photo of Steph on stage.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But they felt comfortable after that. But before that, like Google did that because of the community, because we kind of demanded it, frankly.
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of like, what you're here to talk about, like I think it's really interesting because your talk, this KotlinConf is on...
So I'm talking about using Kotlin Native for CLIs, command line interfaces.
I think that's really hilarious because I know you're a graphics guy.
Yeah.
And so that kind of, when I think of graphics, I think of, kind of sexy graphics, UI, fancy, and as Android developers, that's a lot of what many of us do is create, kind of very visual, expensive UIs. But you, as a graphics person, are talking about a CLI. Can you just talk about how did you end up using Kotlin Native for a CLI?
Yeah, well, so a big part of that is like, my history in open source and small company. When you're with a smaller team, you have to do everything. You have to, you have to work on the tools, the back end, all of that. And so I ended up doing a lot of that kind of stuff. I love Kotlin. It's a really comfortable, ergonomic language to work in. We all know why it's great. That's why we're here. This particular project started out. I was working on actually an image diffing library called Differ. That's open source. And the sample app was a command line interface, so you could use it just like diff at the command line. And I realized that Java at the command line is really ugly. You have to call the Java command, you have to give it a class path, you have to just do all this extra stuff. And so as I was working on that, one thing I thought about was like Gradle W. We have this, it's just a script that does all of that for us. I thought maybe I'll just write this script that, does all that, and it seemed like a lot of overhead. So then I decided, like, we have, the underlying library is Kotlin multi-platform. We can use Kotlin to build natively for platforms. Like, why not do that, with Kotlin Native for the CLI project? And that was a big adventure and a lot of learning, but yeah, it worked out. It was cool and fun to learn and try out.
Yeah, I kind of feel like when we are, as developers, engineers, when we're really passionate about something, it's kind of hard to avoid golden hammering that thing into everything. And obviously with CLIs, there's a lot of different technologies people have already used. Can you kind of, without spoiling your talk too much because we want people to see Ryan's talk, please watch it afterwards. But maybe kind of just give an idea of like, what were some of the challenges, and how much do you think, like, what are the compromises when using Kotlin Native for CLI versus kind of more traditional, whatever languages and tooling? And do you think, was it worth it? That's a big question, my bad.
Yeah.
So let's just start with like any kind of like pros and cons.
To start out, I would say like the biggest, maybe obvious point is that one of the major benefits of Kotlin is interoperability with this existing ecosystem of dependencies and tools and all of this that we have for the JVM. And I think it was really, really important that JetBrains really focused on that interoperability. Moving to Kotlin Native, we're not quite there yet. Okay. So we have interoperability with native tooling, with existing platforms, but the interfaces we get with tools like libpng for loading PNG images, they're optimized for C. They're not optimized for Kotlin. So until we have a broad community of wrappers or adapters or whatever it might be for that kind of stuff, there's still a bit of pain around interoperability there. And then the other big challenge is memory management. When we're working in a native environment, we have to, even if Kotlin Native has a lot of tools that sort of add memory management on top of things, but when we interop with existing libraries, we have to at least keep it in mind, that kind of stuff, which we don't on the JVM. So those are a lot of the challenges. I think for your final question of if it was worth it, I don't want to spoil anything, so you'll have to listen to the talk to find out.
But I really do love that, obviously us Android devs, better or worse, are just everywhere in the Kotlin community, but that it's not like you just thought of it as an Android tool, but that you liked it enough and found enough value in it to kind of spread it to other things. Am I spoiling if I ask, could you see yourself using other, kind of like pieces of the Kotlin platform in other parts, or do you think this was just a kind of a good exercise? And I don't know, maybe I'm kind of circling back to, is it worth it? But I mean, just in general, what's your kind of, I guess, take and your feelings about the outlook of kind of these different, platforms on which we can build Kotlin?
Yeah, I think, as I've grown as an engineer, early on as an engineer, it was, hey, I've got this tool, I want to use it everywhere, that kind of stuff. And I think that's a really easy trap to fall into. But there's a lot of overhead to that. You have to think, even if we're talking about integrating with like JavaScript for Kotlin JS, in addition to whatever tools are available, we get to use our language, but we have to keep in mind, how is this going to translate to JavaScript? What's the ecosystem, of JavaScript look like? And, to steal from your talk earlier today, which was great, thinking about the idioms of the ecosystem. And that's, I think, like one of the challenges. And so as I've grown as an engineer, I've sort of, I sort of went that way, and then I kind of have come back to, there are a lot of places where it makes sense, where, my experience with Kotlin can allow me to be more productive, using it in these other ecosystems. Yeah. But I have to weigh that against the overhead of, integrating into that ecosystem. Being all adult as an engineer, right? Growing up. That's really cool. I think a lot of us converge on that kind of thinking eventually. So, but so for the actual kind of ending and story about whether, Ryan's journey into Kotlin Native for CLIs was, a good bet or not. We're going to have to give you a little cliffhanger, but you should definitely check out Ryan's talk. I mean, it'll be available online. Ryan, good luck, because as of this recording, Ryan has not given his talk yet. He's very generously donated some of his talk prep time to come and talk to us. But Ryan, if people wanted to find you on the internet, how can they do that? So the best place to find me online is on Mastodon these days. You can find me at ryan@harter.us. And you can search for that on any Mastodon client, or you can find my blog at ryanharter.com. All right, well, Ryan, thank you so much. Good luck on the talk. Enjoy KotlinConf, and we'll see you all real soon. Bye.